So let's check out how space travel works in Starfield. Now, depending on what your expectations are with the game, it can reach from severe disappointment to being slightly irritated. And I'm more slightly irritated with it because I understand why it's limited the way it is and why Bethesda did it, how I think it could have been improved in some way. And in some ways, space travel is more like exploring in Fallout 2 than it is Star Citizen. So let me explain. Also, one detail: notice how small the sun is on this planet from a distance. It's going to be important in a moment. Okay, this is my custom ship I built for the tutorial. As the developers explained even before release, that there's no atmospheric light, so taking off is just a cutscene. Well, I think it's a really beautiful cutscene. You can see your ship, and the audio is amazing when it takes off. Okay, now gameplay in space is fairly limited, and as I mentioned, it's more like Fallout 2. Okay, so the first thing is that, let me open the map. When you take off from a planet or moon, you actually have no control where you end up in the orbit of the place. The game will always create a bubble of like a stage of things that can happen. Like pirates attacking you or just random ships flying by. At no point you really have control over where you are. I mean, technically you can still fly in a certain direction to get to places, but I think the game wasn't designed for that. So, for example, let's say I want to fly to a moon in the area somewhere. Let's see if I can find one. Okay, so yeah, that's, I think it's that. Yeah, I think that's the actual sun of the system, LX. Notice it says 4,651.3 LS. I think it's light seconds. So it's pretty far away. So the next moon over here, if I could find it on the map, I can't see it right now. It's somewhere in the area. I think it's like 0.5 light seconds away. And it will probably still take you, I think, weeks or even a year to fly there at in-game speeds, okay? Because your ship can, the top speed of your ship, depending how you build it, is about 150 meters per second. And you can boost it, then you have like a few seconds of, how much is it here? Of half a kilometer speed. Okay, and there's nothing in between. I think that's a big problem here. There's no super cruise. There's only fast traveling to another moon, or flying like that. But flying like that, technically it's impossible. So basically you're stuck with a gameplay bubble around the area you end up in after taking off or after flying to a moon. Now what's interesting here, I can still communicate with those ships at a distance. 7 kilometers away. I can even hail them and ask about trading, and I can still trade with them items even at that distance. So I think that's an oversight by Bethesda. And in theory, I could fly away from those ships for half an hour, but nothing new will happen. At least I haven't experienced that, because I think the game wasn't designed for you, like flying to the other side of that planet manually. And there will probably no new ships will be spawning. At least I haven't tried it for longer than 10 minutes. So the moment you take off or fly to a moon, what you see on the screen within a few seconds is what you get for that situation. And of course, it's randomized, and at different points in the game, different things can happen. Okay, so let's say you want to travel to another moon over here. You basically click on it. Pause for Namachi. Travel. Now you get a cutscene. I think it's a really nice cutscene. It's smooth the way it blends in and out. And the loading time is pretty fast too. So now I'm ended up at this moon. And again, I have no real control where I am around the moon. The game takes care of that. If something interesting is supposed to happen, it basically throws it at you. And see, the game just indicates where you are, that you're at that moon, but you actually get no precise indication where you are, which means for the game it's not considered important where exactly you are around the moon. But see, that's a bitmap projected icon, I think. See, from no matter what direction I'm scrolling, it's always the same pointer. And notice here what I mentioned about the sun being small on the sky. Notice here, that's just an approximation of all the planets in the game and I think the relative masses. It's like in an astronomy book where they have to put things close together so you can see the size comparison to it. Because the distances in real life and in this game are actually realistic, I think. Because the sun, as you noticed, was really small on the screen. If it would be that big in game and that close, it would be, but it's that big, it's just not that close, then it would be the whole screen would be sun. So I think they got that part realistic. So you have like the celestial movements, you can see the small moons, you can see the suns, and even those gas giants moving around. So in terms of long-range gameplay opportunities, notice here it says ship, star station. Now star stations usually are static because they just don't randomly appear out of nowhere. So they're usually easy to find. Like sometimes you get a ship, sometimes it says hostile contact, sometimes it says a named ship. And then you can fly to that point and you have some gameplay interaction with it. So there's no scanning gameplay where you like press a ping and you get a radar system or anything. That's what I mean. It's like Fallout 2. It's more Fallout 2 than it is Star Citizen. I'm not sure if you have played Fallout 2, but in Fallout 2, the way it works is that you have like this overworld map, and you would travel from a city to another city, and the zoomed-in gameplay is only in the city areas. However, as you move over the overworld map, like in Indiana Jones movie, sometimes the game triggers a random event, then you get warped into like a small gameplay bubble where certain staged events can happen, like you meet NPCs or crash spaceship or something, and you can interact with it, then you leave the area and the area disappears again. And I think that's what they replicated with Starfield here. So it's more like Fallout 2, where you basically, the game shows you gameplay opportunities, you click on them, you go there, and then there's still depth to it in terms of gameplay, what can happen. Like it could be a pirate ship attacking you, it could be, no, I'm not spoiling anything important, it could be just a trader you can meet, it could be just a ship where it doesn't respond to any hail, so you can board it, see what's happening on the ship. So there's like many different things can happen. So there's gameplay depth there, but it's more like a supporting gameplay system to support the gameplay. It's not some type of space simulation gameplay. And I think what is problematic about it is that ships are amazing gameplay spaces. And especially if I'm landing on the moon to explore it and coming back to my ship, like going through the airlock, going inside, sorting my loot in different boxes. It's like coming back to your home base in Fallout 4. So that part is actually amazing. Now, what I would have done differently is, for example, let's say you're traveling from this planet to this moon. Let's say the distance should be, again, distance are not to scale here. The travel distance should be like, let's say 5 minutes from a planet to its orbiting moon. Real life 5 minutes. Okay, what then would happen is that you set the ship to some type of super cruise where it's like not a fast travel cutscene.
Excuse me, do you have a minute? I'm a scientist. I could use some help with my research.
See, random event coming in. So there's gameplay depth. Actually, I've never met that character or the thing that just randomly popped in. So I'm going to ignore it for the video recording.
This'll only take a minute.
She will wait for you to respond. Maybe you can even board the ship and talk to an NPC. I have no idea what's going to happen. Just going to ignore it.
Try a different system.
And anyway, so imagine you're flying from a planet to its moon. Oh, there's actually a moon. Let's say you're flying towards it, and the ship is set to some type of super cruise. Okay? And then you can get out of the cockpit seat. And as the ship spends 5 minutes going there, remember what I said at the beginning, that you're basically exploring 5 minutes on the moon, just walking around, not knowing what's going to happen. So you have the same setup here. 5 to 10 minutes of gameplay possibilities, or perhaps just pure nothingness, you just listening to the hum of your spaceship. Then you perhaps go sort some loot, or you check a mission board, talk to an NPC friend, or do some crafting station stuff somewhere. And perhaps something happens. Perhaps the ship takes damage, perhaps an enemy ship comes up, perhaps the ship is hailing your ship, so you have to run to the cockpit, answer the call if you want to. So you have this gameplay opportunity bubble, like when walking on the ground, 5 to 10 minutes of travel, but it might be nothing or it might be something. And for interstellar travel, it could be similar, like you get ripped out of warp or something, just to make it take like 5 or 10 minutes and fill it with not guaranteed gameplay, but just gameplay opportunities, okay? Because I think it's important for the time that you travel between places to matter in this game. So it actually feels like you have you're far away from some place. Let's say if you travel from one dense, beautiful city, you travel to a moon outside of it, it should take time and it should give you a feeling of you actually having traveled to some remote place. And perhaps it can be added in the DLC or something. But the game has like this gameplay super cruise bubble where you're just traveling with your ship and there's like, it's like ground travel. Just some gameplay opportunities that get thrown at you just to stretch out the travel time. And I know many players don't like quote unquote dead gameplay time or time sinks. However, if you fill them with gameplay opportunities, I think they're fun. And expecting specific gameplay but not getting it, and maybe something else happening, that's gameplay in itself too. Like I mentioned earlier, I have no problem wandering on the moon just for 5 minutes or maybe in 10 minutes just to get to that radar dome in a distance that I want to see what it is. So I hope this was useful, perhaps even insightful, I hope, and not too long. And thanks for watching.